Okay, in the last lesson we learned about the fundamental attribution error, and it's the tendency for people to overestimate the role of dispositions in other people's behavior and underestimate the role of situational factors. So we tend to discount situational factors. Now we ended by looking at the cases where we do see situational factors, and one of those is when we ourselves are the actor. So when we're behaving in the world, it is very apparent to us how situational factors are influencing our decision making. So for us as actors, situational factors are salient, but when we are observing other people's behavior, the situational factors are less salient, less observable, harder to see. Now, I mentioned last time about the question of just why do we make these errors, and we said, well, a couple ways to look at that. Situations are hard to see. Also, we might be motivated to not correct for situations, but there's another way to look at this too, because after all, remember, one of the models of understanding the error was that we have these automatic processes and controlled processes. So we can ask the question, well, why is it that the dispositional attribution is the automatic one and the situational is the correction? Why couldn't it be that we make an automatic situational attribution and correct for dispositional information? Right, so that should be theoretically possible too. Well, one approach to shedding light on this is called error management theory. And the idea here is we're going to try to put an evolutionary context, or set up a context for the fundamental attribution error. Now, what is error management theory? Here the idea is that the kinds of errors we make have different evolutionary costs and benefits. Some errors may have more favorable cost-benefit ratios, and if so, they will be favored by natural selection. So we want to think of our brains as having gone through, right, hundreds of thousands of generations of natural selection. And we can ask the question, is it better to make an automatic dispositional attribution followed by a correction for situational, or vice versa? Can we think about how there might be costs and benefits to doing it either way? Take a look at this situation. So here we are. We're observing this individual, and we conclude bad behavior, right? Now, the error suggests, the way we've discussed it already, is that it's easy for us to make a dispositional attribution here, to say that this person's bad, right? We might not see the situational factors, or might be motivated to discount them, or whatever. It just comes easy for us to make these dispositional attributions. But let's consider, remember, there are two possibilities. Why isn't it that we make these automatic situational attributions? So let's take a look at the two possibilities and what kind of mistakes and the costs and benefits associated with each. So over here on the left, let's say we go ahead and make our dispositional attribution when really it was the situation that was influencing the behavior. So if I make a dispositional attribution, then I'm going to say, okay, this is a bad person. But if I'm wrong about that and it really was the situation, you see, then I'm going to have a certain cost associated with that. Because later on, when I encounter this person, because I made a dispositional attribution, I might avoid them. But if this was a mistake, then I am paying a cost here. I'm avoiding contact with a possibly good person, right? So here's the cost of this error, that I make a dispositional inference when it's really situational factors were driving the behavior. Well, what if I did it the other way around? What if I make a situational attribution when really it was a dispositional cause of the behavior, right? Well, here I might say, okay, well, this bad behavior, that was caused by situational factors. So that implies the person is a good person. It was just the situation that was making them do this bad behavior. Well, if I'm wrong about that, this is what can happen, right? So I think this person's good, and it was the situation that made them do something bad. So when I later encounter them, I'm going to interact with a bad person who I thought was good. And so you can ask yourself, which is the worst mistake, this one or this one? And from an evolutionary point of view, when you look at just animal behavior in general, it is this is kind of a bad mistake right here, to be interacting with somebody who can really harm you. And so a lot of researchers would argue that it's better to avoid contact with a possibly good person than to interact with a bad person whom you thought was good, right? You can really get taken advantage of here or harmed. So from this point of view, then, we might say that that making the dispositional attribution to be the sort of first one, automatic one, and to make an error towards a dispositional attribution is better safe than sorry. That would be the principle. Better to have a bias to make dispositional attributions than situational attributions. Avoiding bad people is more important than missing opportunities with good people. That would be the evolutionary sort of accounting of it. From the point of view of the cognitive systems, we can think of it this way. Remember, the way it seems to be working in us is that we're making this automatic dispositional attribution followed by a correction for the situation, which can fail, and that produces the error. So the idea is it's better to do it this way, though. Even if we make the fundamental attribution error, that error is better than if we had the system set up like this, that we first make an automatic situational attribution, and then if we have the cognitive energy and the time and so on, we make the correction for the disposition. But we might fail, leaving us with a situational attribution. The idea here is this one's worse because we might be tempted to deal with people in the future who are actually bad, but we mistakenly attributed their bad behavior to situations.